I mean, look at this thing. Looks like a spaceship. Looks like a Halloween weapon, some sort. If you don't know what it is, don't feel bad. It's never existed before until today. Last week, I showed you how I came up with something to help with HEMI lifters, pulling them out, putting them in easier. In fact, right here, an example of that. This makes it a lot easier to mess with the lifters, pulling them in and out of the blocks. And I talked about how we had this unique spot right here, kind of a funky looking spot. I had kind of like a trivia to find out, see if anybody could figure out what it was. I didn't figure anybody would guess just because it's so unique, but
we got a bleeder!
Here we have the answer. Sits right here, along with the lifter puller. And of course, this is where your lifters go. I still haven't answered the question exactly what this is, but I'm getting ready to, and it's pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to take you on a short journey of how I came to this discovery, and it was a little bit painful, but I think you'll find it very interesting. First of all, of course, I started just soaking the lifters, and then I went from that to actually taking some kind of a turkey roasting something and put it on top of a hot plate, something like this. And so I started soaking them in super hot oil. I went from that to Marble Mystery Oil, and then hot Marble Mystery Oil. I even tried taking some Lucas and getting it warm to the point to where it was more liquid and seeing if that would help. After that, I created quite the contraption right here. I did this a couple years ago. These are actually valve springs right here. And these are push rods I had cut off, and as you push in, it pushes the valve spring. But I wanted to kind of emulate what it would be like to have pressure on the lifters, the same pressure that's on the valve springs. So I made kind of like a wood rack, drilled some holes, put the lifters in there, and then I set this on top of the lifters. And then I put it in kind of like a press, and I pushed the pressure down to where these springs were actually down, because I wanted to figure out, which ones were going to fail. Even going through that, I still had some that were issues that were ticking. So I took another step further, took the lifters apart, and I found a place that makes these springs, and you can get them customized any size, really, any strength. So I had this bag of the springs kind of made up that fits in these perfect, and they're upgraded springs. It took a long time, but at the time I was desperate. I just wanted to make sure when lifters go in, they're not going to tick, they're not going to have issues. We don't want to have comebacks at our shop, and especially with all the HEMI lifter ticking issues, we just didn't want to deal with that. So it was worth it for me to do that. And so I took a set of lifters, took them apart, and I upgraded the springs. That didn't quite do it either, to my surprise. I thought I had found the fix. And this little bag right here, I think it was like $235. I mean, that's crazy. But that's kind of how desperate I was. It's kind of been the evolution to what I have discovered and what I'll show you as far as the best way to bleed them. But I wanted to share a little bit of the history and the journey, how I got to this point. First of all, you're probably more familiar just with taking some oil, putting it in some type of a container, and then just pouring some oil in there and then dropping your lifter in there. So nothing fancy about that. And you can tell when you drop a lifter in there, there'll be some bubbles that are coming up. Every now and then you'll see a bubble come up. And it's helpful. It's a lot better than nothing. Okay, so I'm going to show you a hack that I figured out, which was a lifesaver. First of all, I used to soak my lifters just like everybody does, I think, which is a good idea if you don't soak them. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but it's better to kind of get a pre-bleed as much as possible. But even in the process of soaking, not all the air gets out of there. In fact, you can soak them for 100 days and then install them in the motor, and you're going to hear some clattering before they actually pump up. But a better way of doing it, and how I used to do it, is I would take something thin, metal like this, and then I would take some oil and I would put it on top of the lifter itself. Just let it puddle up, and then I would go down into where the plunger is and go up and down, and then I would add oil to it, and then I would go up and down again until basically it wasn't squirting out any air. Now, it takes a while to do it because there's 16 lifters if you're just using this, but it's better than soaking them for sure. And you'll notice when you start them up, they're way quieter and they pump up like almost immediately, which is awesome. So this one here, I've had soaking here for a little bit. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to take out this one here and I'm going to put it in here. I'm going to try to give you like a little bit of a close-up of how much oil is sitting on top of this lifter. So right now we have it full of oil. I'm going to pump it up and I'm going to show you the difference. Probably just 6 or 7 or 8 pumps, something like that. Okay, something like that. Take a look at this. It's dry again. So just goes to show how much air is actually in there. I've basically taken this same concept here. I've never heard anybody teach on this, but it's super helpful. And it's different than just, say, taking a push rod and then pushing down and doing the same thing. There's like an inner plunger that's in there that this little needle gets down in there and it works out air that you just can't get from doing it with a push rod. So very, very happy discovery for me. And it changed a lot about how we did stuff. So a lot less stressful, gives you a better chance of having successful lifters, having a fully lubricated startup and a quieter startup. As far as the bleeder is concerned, it just has a plug on here. You just pull it off and pour it in there. I'll take this little funnel here. You don't really need a funnel, but I'm gonna do that. Okay, go. Just put the plug back in, and then you're ready to go. So when you push down, yeah, you're actually bleeding the lifter, but every time you push up on this, it lets oil to fall directly on that. So for example, and I'm just going to push down here. You can see how oil is just coming down. So as you're bleeding the lifter, it's actually dropping oil into the lifter. So now if you have a lifter rack full of lifters, then it's just a matter of maybe 10 pumps. They're saturated right now. Do the next one, faster, getting all the air out. I don't know what the total time of doing this. I can't imagine it's more than like a minute, which is worth it to have a cleaner and a better and a quieter startup, and plus increasing the chances that you're not going to have a collapsed lifter. There we are. And when you're done, you just I'll go ahead and set it right here. And whatever's left will drip over. And you can see that they're all saturated now. Your content, you want to see more? Check out one of these videos right here. I think you'll enjoy it. So thank you so much for watching today. And this is Dave with HEMI Garage Hacks, and we'll see you on the next one.